Okay, people, here we go. We are going to change an impeller, which I have right here, on this 1989 85 horse force motor. The first thing I did was take the exhaust off, and there's a bolt up inside, a hex fitting, 6mm, okay, from the inside, and then there's 6 13mm bolts that have to come out on either side of the housing. I'm going to take these guys off. There's a pin up in here. If you see, there was a cotter pin in there. That's the gear shifter down to the transit. So that has to come out. And once I get these bolts out, I'll remove this assembly, and then we'll see the impeller from there. Okay, so that came out. Here it is. This is the drive shaft. Here's the linkage that we took the cotter pin out of. And right inside of here is where this impeller has to go. So there's no videos for 1989 85 horse force on YouTube, so I figured I'd give it a shot. And here we are so far. Okay, so here we are. We took this housing off. 11mm bolts. There's 2 longer ones and 2 shorter ones for the back part. At the top of the drive shaft, this bushing fell out. Make sure you take this bushing off and on properly. I'm hoping this is the right way. Yeah. Yep. So I pulled off the impeller, and that's what I came up with. That's the old one. And here's the new one. Be careful not to lose this little slot right here, because that goes in that groove onto your drive shaft. This has to slide back on with your shaft. It's a little bit dirty and corroded in here, but I'm going to clean it up the best I can. Maybe run some really fine sandpaper in there. And it doesn't look like there was a gasket on there. Maybe there should be, but I don't see a gasket on there. Maybe I'll put some kind of gasket sealer on it or whatever. But there doesn't seem to be a gasket there. Whether or not one didn't go back on when it was put back together, but that's how I'm going to put it back anyways. So I'll check back in with you. Okay, making sure that spline is in there in the drive shaft so that it can turn. Very important. Okay, there's the new impeller. She's on. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to try to get this housing on. And unfortunately, I can't run the video and do it at the same time, so I'll be right back. The trick to getting this housing on is to turn it clockwise so that the rubber impellers bend a little bit. So you can't push it straight on. You have to turn it clockwise as you're pushing it down on, and it seemed to seat very nicely. Okay, The housing is back, the bolts are in. I put a little grease on the end of the bolts. I do that anyways all the time. I'm gonna clean some of that up a little bit. Drive shaft seems to be a little pitted, but I don't think that really matters much. My dad took good care of this boat. I mean, it hit salt water a couple of times, but he always flushed it out really good afterwards. That's important. So the hard part, I think, is going to be getting this shaft back up into the engine and lining up these splines. So make sure you load this up with grease here really good. Get a lot of grease on this so it slides in easy. All right, good deal. We'll be back. Okay, so we got the lower crankcase up in there. And to line up the splines, sometimes you gotta turn the prop a little bit. It was a bitch to get up there, but I finally got it on the second try. Make sure your gasket doesn't fall off the top of that thing. And then don't forget to hook up your cotter pin assembly over here, okay? All right. Well, we'll tune in a minute and crank this baby up and see what happens. All right, the hose is hooked up. Everything's back together. Let's see what we got.